Jake and OPI said, we need to do something to merge this talent together. And so you'll remember maybe from the launch that we talked about having a leadership component way back to the beginning. We would be training you, we have our MPI fellows, but we would end up with some now leaders who can share what they know. That idea has become this project. So I'm just going to go over a couple of the points that the flyer also mentions. It's a project for secondary teachers, grades 5 and 12. It's for math and science. And as I just said, we're going to draw from lots of different groups who have been developing teacher leaders in the last 2 years in Montana. But rather than just having them all over the place, we're going to try to create a group that's really strong that can go out and work with their own schools, with other schools, perhaps in the state, as kind of a speaker's panel. So if you were interested in doing this, we think you should apply. You're going to get extra skills. A few people on the handout said they really liked that change conversation, that concerns and theory of change. That's the kind of thing that a leader learns about along with mathematics and science to be better able to work with people and work with peers as they go through change. So you'll get a lot of that kind of skill set. You'll get we're hoping to have 20 people from all over Montana, so you really get to know these 20 people. You'll get a stipend, which is always good. You'll get renewal units, which is always good. And this training kind of begins this spring and goes through next year. So we're looking for people who've been teaching a little while, who know about PD, so all of you qualify, who've been trying to do new and different things in your classroom. Again, all of you qualify. You know the Common Core standards for math, our state standards. And then we'll have you write kind of an essay about yourself, and then make sure that you have an administrator who you can call for recommendation. This process is online, and it's at a horrible little URL, but it's printed here on 2 places. So beginning March 1st, for the whole month of March, you can go in here and apply.
It's also electronic in that live binder, in that URL that I just gave you. So if you don't want to type it in, you can get the electronic version of this and then click on it.
If you do type that in, I believe those Google short links are case sensitive.
Case sensitive?
So make sure that you honor the case.
Yeah. So here's what the calendar will look like. We're spending a month just getting the word out and getting people to apply. And we want everyone to apply, so we have a great group to select from. I'll let you know in April if you're accepted. But if you have any,
let's best plans continuum.
if you have any interest, we wanted to give you these dates too. That a week of August, 4 days, you're going to be at the Montana Learning Center again doing training. So we may have an online course that would look a little like a stream class, maybe a little bit less pressure, more reading and discussion in this early summer, and then get together for 4 days and really create a strong group cohort that works together. In the fall, you'd be part of some subgroup, 4 or 5 people who pick a topic that they're really interested in related to leadership and continue to study. And then you're actually going to go out and present. This is it's slowed down. It's kind of nice because we want you to learn about leadership, practice a little leadership with a colleague. So we'll have leader mentors to present with you. So I don't know, you might go to a community an hour away, give an afternoon presentation along with somebody else and talk about presenting if you've never done that before. So it's a great opportunity. It's a year-long exercise and developing skills that you can do anytime. And so our stream leadership group is going to fold into that. We may still offer a day at the end of our June week to talk about leadership a little bit, if the interest is there. And then we'll have an online module, and then as we go through this leadership program, we'll have one. So if you have questions, go ahead.
I'm just wondering, if we can't do it this time, will it be offered at another time, or is this a one-time only?
Jake?
We would like for this to happen again, but the MSP funding is up in the air. We're not sure how much longer this money will be around, so if you're definitely interested, get in now. And if you can't, like maybe a baby's due or someone's getting married or whatever, then you can just cross your fingers and hope that it's available the next time.
Thank you, and we're going to now let Pat and Rusty tell us about the
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm hitting the trifecta today. I'm sick. I face planted. So I have a swollen nose. And Rusty missed his flight. So I'm good now. Everything's here. Yeah. Oh, we got it going on now. All right. We are in theme 2, geometry and transformations. And it's me and Rusty via Google Hangout. Rusty, say hello. Rusty.
Hello.
And Rusty, if there are things that you need to interject as we go through this first part, just go ahead. And then as we go through, we're going to seamlessly transition from my part into Rusty's part. All right. So what we would like to do during this session is we want to revisit the transformations module. We have had the opportunity to have you very recently, but we still know it's been a couple of weeks since you've been on the transformations module, and I'm sure that everything is just sitting there. We're going to try and bring back some of it because we're going to just continue from where the module left off and continue on with extending the congruence theorems to proofs of other theorems. We're going to model one, explore another, and then go from there. So, just to bring back the module, during week 1, we did a lot with GeoGebra. And actually, we're going to continue to do some things with GeoGebra today. So we hope that you got the message about bringing your device or something with GeoGebra on it. So at least a couple of people at the table might be able to have it. We're hoping everybody does. We explored the properties of translations, reflections, rotations, and dilations. And in a few moments, we're going to kind of get you to refresh yourselves on that. We looked at congruence in terms of rigid motions, and you explored an article. Well, first of all, you explored Khan Academy and Engage New York. We appreciated your comments on both. We wanted to give you the opportunity to look at some other things that were out there. And we also appreciated the fact that once you saw GeoGebra and then saw what was on Khan Academy with his applet, you appreciated the power of GeoGebra, which was really, we were glad that that came out as well. During week 3, we had a triangle congruence and similarity article, and as I think, Lisa, is that handed, because we'd asked for that to be reprinted.
Yep, it's right over here.
And I'll tell you what, Jenny, we can distribute that for a little bit later on.
Okay.
Because that article brought out the congruence theorems, and then we asked you to take a look at one and model it with GeoGebra so that you get a sense of how it relates to the transformations and proving congruence. Okay? So that's just to spark what you did. What I'd like you to do right now is, are we clearly blue?
Not today.
Blue.
Blue's
Green
not
is
here.
over there, blue's over here.
Okay, blue.
Mostly.
Okay. Who's blue?
There.
Who's green?
That's it.
There we go. We do have it. So it's good. Okay. All right.
They're both here.
Okay. Who's turquoise? No. All right. What I'd like you to do, and something slipped here, but that's all right. I want you to, in a moment, I'm going to ask you to find someone who's in the same color group, because those are the people that you had discussions with as it related to geometry. And what I want you to do right now is, talk to somebody who you haven't talked to much yet in person. Okay? So it might not be the people at your table, it might be somebody else, it might be the people at your table. So I want you to find somebody else. I want you to talk to them. What is one thing you learned from the module? What is one thing that you found challenging? What is the course change in here? And that was supposed to be instruction. Somehow the picture got is blocking something there. Or anything else about the course you're learning. In the process, we really want you to bring back some of those big ideas that we learned in the module. So this first one, I want you to stay within your color. And if you haven't talked to someone who you had some good discussions with on the course, etc., that might be a good person to find. So just take a few moments, and you can get up and walk around, find somebody in your own color group, and talk about, and bring back some of the ideas from the course. Okay? That stood out for you in the module?
I mean, that's just that shift of thinking from transformations to the proof.
The
versus
shift of
other way.
thinking.
That was
Yeah.
a big one for me.
We are really glad when we hit the mark on the module, because that was when we first started talking about this module. That is the major aha that we wanted to have happen. It's a different way of looking. And we've even looked at textbooks. I remember Heather at the launch, we were looking at Heather's textbook, and we still are looking at transformations all the way at the end of a course, when they're really something that should be put on the table at the beginning and then help to build all of the other geometric things. Something else? Yes, sir.
Well, this is maybe more of a concern or a negative, but I preach to my geometry students, you can't just look at the picture of the book and say those two triangles are congruent. And so from that perspective, this could lead you down a dangerous path of just flip it over and look at it and yeah, it looks good. But I do think it starts the conversation on, hey, this is how these, and especially with identifying corresponding parts when the shapes are in different orientation, to be able to take a guess at, educate a guess at what the corresponding parts are, and then go manipulate GeoGebra to transform them back to each other and say, yes, I did it right, or yes, I did it wrong, or no, I did it wrong. But I think you just can't do this in a vacuum.
I think it's an excellent point to make, and it's something that we can't be complacent about. Some things that we're going to be doing today, I think, are going to enhance students being able to say, instead of going, I can just rotate it or reflect this over here, and yeah, I know. Well, let's look at it a little bit differently. Great, excellent. Thank you for bringing that up. Anything else from the course?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, Rusty. We need to plug. Rusty, go ahead.
I thought I plugged him in.
I can't hear their comments.
Can you hear you can't hear the comments? Rusty?
You well.
What'd you say?
Just tell him we'll try to talk loud.
Yeah, I can hear you well, but I can't.
You can't hear the comments? I'll tell you what, I will try and repeat their comments. Comments so far have been on a shift from the way of viewing transformations from what we had originally talked about. Now I'm kind of rewording what you said, as transformations as the foundation for congruence rather than congruence as the foundation for transformations. They did get that. Another thought was making sure that there's not and it's my word, complacency of students just looking at triangles and say, oh, I can just flip them around, they're congruent, etc., but being actually able to show why. And I said that will connect nicely with what we're doing right now. Anything else? Was there one thing that you found challenging? The proofs? Okay. The proof on that third week? Okay, good. and we'll actually, Rusty is going to show some additional thoughts with that, so that will actually solidify some things. Anything else? How about GeoGebra comfort level? Okay, they're not in your heads, Rusty, so that's good. Okay. Was there anything in the course that, or what in the course that I said has changed? And some of these might be redundant questions. Change in your instruction or your thinking, because we know that some of you are not teaching geometry, but even in your thinking. And maybe you captured at the beginning. Anything that might have changed in your instruction? Uh-oh, Rusty, you're going to have to take the course again. Yes.
Well, my textbook does transformations first, and then it goes does some proofs and some other stuff, and then it finally gets down to like, what do you call it, straight edge and compass constructions, physical paper constructions, and then it rolls into theory, like the angle, side angle, and side, 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 things like that. And now I see how I can really use GeoGebra to tie all that. Hey, remember transformations that we talked about way back when? Now let's pull it all together. So sequencing wise, or maybe just tying it all together, I can do that better now.
Out of curiosity, what are you using? What resource are you using
For
geometry? When you said you're
what did we just said, we were talking about today. Holt,
oh, okay, so it's starting. You're starting to see some changes even in the way that the books are presenting things. Great. Anything else in the course, or anything else that you want to share from the conversations? Yes.
And I'm still struggling with, especially that third week, how I would take, say, those articles, or that particular article that, remember the gentleman that wrote it, how to explain that to my kids. Those paragraph groups, there's a lot of information in that really small paragraph. We understand, some of us understand because we've been used to it, but, and then getting them to learn how to take one step and say, this is what we got to start with, and this is what we got to say next, and this is how we say it next, and getting why it works the way it works. I mean, I don't know how to even get them started.
Well, it's funny you should mention that, because I'm going to now turn this over to Rusty in a moment.
He's not connected right now, so
What?
he's not connected right now.
Okay. What? That is an excellent point. And that article was for you. That article was for you and your thinking as it related to transformational geometry. It was another way, some of you have been teaching for years and teaching other ways of proving triangle congruency. This was a way of looking at it a little bit differently. There are a lot of Montana Common Core standards in geometry that are related to transformations. We want to key in on these two today. Use congruence and similarity criteria for triangles to solve problems and to prove relationships in geometric theorems, and to prove theorems about parallelograms, including some of the ones that you see there. What Rusty, is he connected?
Yeah.
Okay. What Rusty is going to do, and I think what I'm going to do is toggle back over to the Google Hangout, and he is going to give you a perspective of how to prove those 4 triangle congruence theorems with transformations. So Heather, this might actually be a way of starting to formulate what does it mean from the standpoint of for your students. So let me see if you can see on my screen, if you have a device, your computer, etc., if you could go to www.nearpod.com, when we toggle over to Rusty, he's going to have an access code for you.
It's not caps. I know, sometimes everybody gets that.
www.nearpod.com.
Will you answer my call over there for me?
I answered.
Yeah, it's calling Rusty now.
Okay.
No, he was before, and we actually made him put a shirt on. So. And Jenny told him to put pants on, so
It all takes time.
it takes a little time. He's in Seattle now, we're back. He's going from a different one. He was on his Fort Benton one.
Isn't the hotels?
We're on mine.
Oh, okay.
We're on mine, because we knew everybody was getting on. We're on my phone.
We can use my iPad. If that's costing you money, we can use mine.
Stream will pay for it.
Huh?
The stream will pay for it.
Anybody want a jelly bean?
Bless you.
Thank you for your patience. If this doesn't work, we'll leave it out.
If this doesn't work, there's going to be a field
It
trip.
says I'm on.
We haven't ever
It's like, oh,
There's Rusty.
my lights were in the middle, you know.
Okay, is everybody
Got it.
Is everybody on nearpod.com?
Sorry.
Okay, Rusty, if you want to share your screen,
Oh, shoot.
or
Maybe that's a problem. I just lost it.
Rusty? Rusty? All right.
I think that's scary, but I don't have something.
Can you share your screen now? This was working this morning. We were so excited. Rusty?
Give her a little bit.
I have it.
Can
Rusty,
you-
do you want to send me the access code?
Do you think it's Google Hangouts? Should I try to do a go-to meeting or something?
It'd be great if you could get us into a go-to meeting. That would work a lot easier.
Not being from work. I run my work computer, so let's see if I can.
You should, because I use it from somewhere else.
Rusty?
Alan said if you wanted to have a late lunch.
Um,
Dinner or burger from November.
I'm trying to get him to text me the access code, because then we can go, you actually can get on. I can show it from up here. Okay. Here's the access code. All caps.
Is that where we
www.nearpod.com.
And they enter lesson 10?
Excuse me?
Enter lesson 10?
Yes. All caps, EUV,
What is that?
EUV,
V is in Victoria?
yes, JR. Okay? And
Oh, I did the joint session.
what Rusty had, he wanted to share this with you. And he said it's something that he uses with his students. And what he created for you, you should be able to see right now, correct? Are you seeing?
Approach of the triangle.
Right. So what we can do is, I mean, I'll put it up here. Rusty was going to talk through, and I think that, have you all entered the session?
Yeah.
Okay. See if you can get to this point right here. So,
What do we put in on the name?
just put your name. Should you put your first name? You got it?
He says your audio is muted.
My audio?
There he is.
So what I want you to do is, at this point, Rusty's going to have to take us through it. That's what. I'm going to get him on the phone, and I'm going to put him on the phone, and he can walk us through from the session, because he's controlling this session right now. So let me just call him, and yeah. We're trying. Hey, we're going to try and hook you up to my phone, and they are all on right now. And yes.
So they can all hear you now too.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Rusty.
Everybody can hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Technology awesome.
It's my phone.
Oh my goodness, keep this slide on.
Okay, I see.
Okay, if everybody's got the Nearpod, by the way, I don't know if you guys have ever used Nearpod.com. It's a really cool free software, and this is just one way where all I'm doing is sharing my presentation on your own personal device, so you can kind of see it. But there's also, as if you guys are students, Nearpod allows you to answer questions, and then all your answers come up to the front screen. It's a really cool formulated assessment tool. But I didn't get to listen to the conversations about the module. So if I repeat anything, just let me know, or if I go too fast, also let me know. But this little presentation is going to go through the, I guess, what I call an interpretation of proof. I'm not trying to say at all that this is the way that we prove congruence of transformations, and this is a way to prove transformations. And yeah, I think that's good. So if I click this, just to make sure everybody's with me, did your slides change?
Not yet.
You got it?
Yep.
Okay, so the first theorem, and you guys kind of did this in the module where some of you took a congruence
Pat's
theorem and
connected.
you proved it.
Oh, she's not
I just kind of
connected
put
because
the
she's on the
four
phone.
triangle congruency theorems that we know are validated through geometry, and this is just going to be kind of a way to show a logical path to proving these. So let's see what you think here. So the first one is the side by side congruency postulate. That's calling them in geometry books, but if we can prove it, I guess it's on postulate. But and again, let me know if your slides back up or not going with me here. But the first one here. What is your? Sorry, here. Okay. Okay, so to prove the side-by-side then, like any proof, you have to start with a given. So I see that our given is just, you got a triangle. Okay, we'll call it triangle ABC. So for this proof, if we reflected, say, point B over side AC, just using a reflection idea, then using the whole reflection concept, B prime, since it's the reflection of B, then AC has to be the perpendicular bisector of that segment BB prime. So if we know that AC is the perpendicular bisector of that segment, then we know that point A, and this is the theorem that we proved in the module, that point A has to be equidistant to both B and B prime. And the same is the same true for point C, because it's also on the perpendicular bisector of segment BB prime. It also, B has to be equidistant to B and B prime as well. So we can prove side congruence using reflection properties and perpendicular bisector properties. And then I figured that if we reflected point B and we've got, our segments are congruent, then that must mean that triangle A, B prime, C must be a reflection of triangle ABC, and angles are preserved in reflection. So then we know that in these two triangles, all 6 corresponding parts, the 3 angles and the 3 sides, must all be congruent, and therefore those 2 triangles must be congruent.
And I'm going to stop you, Rusty, and see if there's anyone who needs him to back up. Have any questions?
How would you get a kid to understand he needs a perpendicular bisector first?
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of prior knowledge that's kind of assumed. Depending where you're at in your class, I think you definitely have to build up, to this point. I mean, I would definitely make sure that my kids understand perpendicular bisector relationships. I would use like the compass straight edge for some hands-on, use GeoGebra to reinforce it. And then once I would feel that my kids understand the perpendicular bisector relationships, especially that equidistant idea, then I think, we've kind of built up the logic to understand this part, if that makes sense. And that's kind of the thing about logic too. I mean, it depends on where you're at in your class or how you as a teacher kind of understand how a logical flow. So for now, there are going to be some kind of prior knowledge that we're going to assume. But again, if you kind of think like, okay, if I was teaching this, I would have to make sure I pass this class first. If that makes sense.
Rusty, if you don't mind, when you're looking at this from a a curriculum flow or a sequence flow. There's a lot of things that are coming before you're doing triangle congruence. And perpendicular
for sure.
bisector is one of those things that is doing. This is actually, to me, puts a lot of the things together that you've put on the table in your course.
Right. You know, the idea here is, I mean, with the prior knowledge again, yeah, there's some stuff that we have to make sure that we lay out with our students, but then I think the whole idea is, you know, it's that logical process that makes sense. I know that teaching geometry, my kids, even though I think I do a good job telling them what a postulate is and what a pyramid is, they don't really know the difference. There's a lot of things that we teach that we think our kids are getting, and they're not. And I think that this transformation thought is a nice way to kind of connect those pieces. Are we ready for the next one?
Yes.
Okay. So the next proof is the side and side congruency theorem. So if you got two sides and an included angle that correspond in another triangle, then those triangles must be congruent as well. So again, you know, to start this kind of proof of the logical flow is you got to start somewhere. So again, let's just start with a triangle. And again, this is just one way we can do this. What I kind of figured was we need to make another triangle that's based off of, you know, that has the same congruent information. So another triangle that's got the two sides and an included angle. My nearby is doing something. Okay. So let's construct another triangle using the blue side, segment AC. And again, this is kind of building up the idea of the reflexive property. And again, that's another thing that, you know, when we validate the two triangles share a side or an angle, we call it the reflexive property. Again, do students really understand the reflexive property? I'm not sure on that one. Okay, so then from that side, let's construct another angle. So that angle A up there, let's construct that. And again, how you go about that, I'm not sure. I use GeoGebra to do that. So we're just kind of building, if that angle is congruent. Now we have a side and an angle form. I apologize, my internet here at the hotel is spotty. Okay, so then now let's measure that green length, that segment AB length on this ray that was formed from constructing that congruent angle. So we can just use a circle for that. And now we know
Do you understand why he used the circle? Okay, great. I hope that brings back some things from the course.
So I apologize, everybody. This internet is weird. Okay. Here's what I can. So now that we use that circle, now I got segment length. So now we've got a side, an angle, and a side that we know have to be congruent. And now we've got our third vertex on our second triangle. So now we can go ahead and just make that triangle. So now we've got two triangles formed. Now the question is segment DC, the right segment on our original triangle, is it really congruent to segment, what's called DC in this picture? And again, going back to that perpendicular bisector relationship, since we know that that point A is equidistant to B and also to B and B, then that means that segment AC must be on a perpendicular bisector again. And therefore, therefore, point C is also on that perpendicular bisector, which means it has to be congruent to point B and point B as well. So now we've just argued, we've got these two triangles, we know all three sides are congruent. We only have an angle right now for congruency. And since we know that, and we can use that reflection, so I think, and here I missed an argument, I think, I probably should state that we can argue that triangle ABC and ABC are reflections of each other, and then therefore the other two angles must also be congruent because reflections preserve angle measure, and therefore we know that those two triangles have to be congruent. Are there any questions on that one?
That was a little, I know he was going back and forth. Did you get what, the direction that he was heading? He created the congruent angle, okay? And he had this original side, he was able to create that side. And so then, once he created this perpendicular bisector, okay, then we also knew that that side, that was a side, angle side, okay? Now, we know that there's other ways to prove this, and that's what Rusty said in the beginning. And I know some of you have been teaching geometry for a while, teaches with reflexive property, etc. But we're trying to look at how can you use those transformations and make that bridge from the transformations into the congruence triangle. Okay, Rusty, you've got another one, right?
Yep, I got two more. So here's the angle side angle congruency theorem. So again, if you have two triangles that have two corresponding angles that are congruent and the included sides, then those triangles have to be congruent. So let's start again with another triangle, ABC. And again, on these triangles, I've got the congruent parts labeled. So angle C and angle A, and then that blue segment in between is our given criteria. So we have to kind of figure out a way to construct another triangle that has that same congruent information. So just like on the last one, let's start with the side that we have that we know needs to be congruent. From that side, we can construct an angle that's congruent to angle C, which is just using array. So now we've got a congruent angle constructed. Now we need to construct an angle that's congruent to angle A on the bottom. So then again, let's do that. So now we've got, where those two rays intersect must be, the third vertex of our second triangle that's getting constructed. So we've satisfied the congruent corresponding information, and so now we just need to check for congruence. And since in this case, we created two triangles, and 2 out of the 3 angles are congruent to each other by construction. And again, our teachers need to know that the triangle angle sum is 180 degrees, and therefore we can argue that the third corresponding angle also must be congruent. So now we have 2 triangles that we know that the 3 angles within them, the corresponding angles are congruent. So therefore, they must be similar. Right? So again, we got to have similar, which is the reason that I kind of like teaching similarity with congruence, not necessarily on its own. I think it's a good way to have kids understand similarity and congruence. And since they're similar, and they also share that side AC, then the scale factor between those 2 triangles must be 1. You think about a ratio, which then forces them to be congruent.
Questions on that one?
How do we know again that the intersection C is
How do we know what?
well, I'm trying to think of how to ask the question. So you have this intersection C. What did we say that proves that those 2 triangles are equal? We did reflect
How do we prove that they're congruent?
Scale factor.
That's the question.
Scale
right?
factor, that's right, okay.
Yeah, and again, with the intersection, I mean, but it's, geometry is about relationships, I think, and, you've got these two angles, the angle up on top and the angle on the bottom. Once we constructed those congruent angles, that third vertex just happens, to pop up, which therefore, it's really the relationship of the, like, the distance that point C is from that intersection of the rays, and the distance that point A is really what creates that triangle. And then again, how do we prove that those distances, which we see on the segments, that really is a distance idea, how do we prove that those distances are congruent? And again, this one's using a similarity argument.
She's nodding her head.
Okay, up and down or?
Nodding, yes. Not shaking.
Oh, nodding. Okay, and then the last one that I have for you is the angle side. So this one was kind of interesting, and I hope this makes sense. So again, you got to start somewhere. So we're given a triangle. I marked the 2 out of the 3 angles, and then the side is not included between the 2 angles. So we need to construct these 3 congruent parts. So again, we're going to construct an angle C. So now you see that ray down there. Okay, so now on this one, this is where I'm hoping this logic makes sense. When I made this thing, I'm like, we'll see if this flies. And I believe it will. When we create this second angle, an angle that's congruent to angle A, the vertex has got to be on that ray that we just constructed. So I just chose right now, and this is nice what you got, but I just chose some arbitrary point on the ray for right now, and that's going to be my vertex. Then I'm going to construct an angle that's congruent to angle A. So I did that. Now you can't necessarily do this with a compass and a straightest, but with geometry you can kind of tweak it a little bit, which is nice. Now that we have that angle on the ray formed, then we can just kind of slide it so that that second ray contains our third point. And again, I understand it's a little shaky, but I think it still is valid. We've got our 2 triangles made. We got the 2 angles and the non-included side between between the 2. And again, we'll just use a similarity argument so that we know, because 2 out of the 3 angles are congruent, the third pair has to be congruent as well. And again, because they share that side ABC, the scale factor must be 1 again. And therefore, those 2 triangles are similar and also congruent. But what I like about this is, again, it needs to kind of step back a little bit and think, okay, if my students, I got them prepared to understand some construction thought, also the bisector relationships, if you can give them the tools basically to understand this, then, is this a better way to prove triangle congruence?
And my thinking on this is I'm really big on something called bridging the concepts. And if you're starting, and that is, we know that ultimately, those of you that teach in geometry know what some of the proofs look like in geometry as it relates to the triangle congruency. This is that step that's getting the students to understand why those steps exist. So when you look at what Rusty has put forward, it's almost a visual picture of helping the students understand those particular parts and why those things are congruent, and using those construction techniques and the use of GeoGebra, that's what Rusty was sharing with us, to help. And then you could see where possibly you could then move into more of that formalized proof idea And there might be some understanding and visualization by the student in order to see why those things work. I don't know about you, but sometimes those students are like, okay, whatever you tell me, I'm just going to memorize a process and just go through. And now there's that idea, what we're attempting to help you with your students is, what can you do to help, when you have those transformations on the table, make this come alive for the students, and then move into more of that formal proof. Okay, Rusty, or do you have another one? Or
Yes. No, that's it for the Nearpod presentation. Pat, I'm wondering on our presentation, did I put the slide in that has the link to that Geographer file that I wanted to share?
I don't think you, let me go back to that. No, you didn't put the link, you just show it and then you were going to connect. Is there something you can send me?
Well, Lisa's going to put an electronic binder together, right? So I can put the link
Okay,
to that Geographer file from my Dropbox.
right. And also, I did put in the URL that is housing all of the resources. Not only is this PowerPoint, but really what Rusty did on the Nearpod, he also put on a PowerPoint, and that's in there too. So right now, you can't control what's on the Nearpod. That's more of a presentation. But in that file, in that shared resource, you have the full PowerPoint that he just shared with you. Okay?
Yeah.
All right. So, do you want to explain to them what that will share with them? What that will show them, and then they can go on to it later.
Definitely. Are we still on the Hangout?
No.
I am not sure. Lisa's shaking her head no. You are right now on my phone. So I think but they are viewing the slide that says, let's construct a GeoGebra proof for the isosceles base angles theorem.
On our computers, we still have the AES.
Yeah, so that's the end of my,
Yeah.
right. The problem is I was going to show how to construct
Yeah.
that. So I need to share my screen.
All right. So how about if I'm going to try one more time on the Google Hangout, and if not, we'll just have to let me call you back on the Google Hangout. Okay?
Yeah. Worst case, Pat, you could be my student and I can just tell you what to do on Geographer.
You're right. Okay.
You're right, that is the scenario.
Whatever. Okay. Let's see. Why is this? Okay. All right, Rusty, this is on Fort Benton, I think. I'm calling you.
Yeah.
Do you have it?
No, I got nothing on that. I can hear your computer sound.
All right, I'm going to try it again.
Hey Pat, have Rusty try calling you.
Rusty, why don't you try calling me? Can you Google Hangout me? Rusty?
Yeah, I'm trying, no, I don't think I can.
All right, well, how about if I just open up GeoGebra?
Do you mind trying to call one more time and then we'll do that plan B? Playing after we're a little on right now.
I think we're on W.
Hey, run over. Yeah.
No, and that's
Seventh graders.
There he is.
You're all right. We don't have to punch each other. Nobody's fighting.
All right, that's a great time to do. Yes.
You have to mute your phone, Pat. Okay. Now, Pat, unplug your audio from your phone and plug it in your computer. And you can probably hang up your phone with it.
Screen. Share entire screen.
No, that's right.
Okay, do you see my screen now?
Not yet.
Not yet. Tell you what, I'm going to ask you all to get off of nearpod.com.
It might help with the opening.
Yeah.
So.
There we go. We can see. Rusty, can you hear us? Yes? Yeah? I'm going to mute yourself. Let me mute myself on.
You know, what if we take just a 10-minute break while we make a concerted effort to get everything going again?
All right, Rusty, we're going to take a 10-minute
I'll go
break.
and smell the doTERRA.
There's a doTERRA convention next door. Go
Yeah.
read it.
For example, side, 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 I can just make another triangle with that tool, and now the three sides are marked. So it's a really easy way to make a triangle, show congruent parts, and then if you want your students to construct, like I did on the Nearpod example, it's really fast and easy that way. So just wanted to share that with you and give you guys, if you want it, download it here.
That'll be in the file.
If you want to follow along with me on this same single theorem, that'd be great. So if you guys could have a blank GeoGebra window open, you don't have to, you can just kind of watch us up front. We don't need the axes. So, the possibly base single theorem, I'm going to pull that up just so that everybody wrap their brain around it. I hope you guys can see this. I don't know why it's taking so long. Can I ask, this is a bad teacher question, does everybody know that isosceles base single theorem?
There are some yeses and some no's. Somebody who knows
So the
this.
isosceles, there's a slide there, Pat, and you may want, it may be easier for you to switch it back to the PowerPoint and show the theorem real quick. But basically, what it says is, if a triangle is isosceles, so it's got two sides that are congruent, then there's the two basing congruent in the triangle. So we're going to prove that. So when it comes to proof, and this is why I like construction and I like GeoGebra, we're going to construct this idea. So you have to think about what your given information is, and in a conditional statement, it's always that, if a triangle is isosceles, so that's what we have to work with. So we have to construct an isosceles triangle. And when your students will do this, and you might do this too, you might just take two sides that look like they're congruent, but that's not true construction. So part of the logic build-up is how you construct a true isosceles triangle. And the easiest way to construct an isosceles triangle is to use the circle tool.
Hey, Rusty,
Yeah.
we've lost you on Google Hangout.
Oh,
So,
man.
I know. So I think what we're going to do is, I think we're actually going to go to the next part. But
Okay.
I tell you what, if you want to talk through, just visualize for us what you would do with the isosceles triangle piece, and then we'll go on to the next part.
Could you run what he's telling us to do on,
Okay.
I could try and get up, but I just
on the
from time
right,
perspective.
all the way to the right there? Is your,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
you just
yeah.
run the GeoGebra while he tells us
Right,
what to do.
I've got to get
Okay.
into GeoGebra. Right. That's the problem. Rusty,
Let's-
go ahead and...
Let's just wrap up Rusty's piece
Right.
and move forward.
Right. Rusty, go ahead and just talk through what you were going to do.
Okay. So when it comes to construction, if we need to construct my isosceles triangle, we can use the circle tool. And if we make a circle, one big piece of logic that I think is kind of seems easy for us geometry teachers, but it's really a big piece, is in a circle, any radius in a circle, your radii are going to be congruent in length. So if you have a circle, all you have to do is make two radii on the circle. And then, you've got two sides of the triangle, then you can connect the 2 points on the circle with the segment, and you've got a triangle. Does that make sense? And you've got a triangle that's isosceles, or constructed to be isosceles. So then that satisfies the given information. So if a triangle is isosceles, and you want to put that picture in front of you, now we have a triangle that's guaranteed to be isosceles. So now we prove the then, right? We prove the condition. So now we have to prove that there's two angles that are congruent within that triangle, which are the base angles. And the way that I was going to go about showing that is using the reflection properties. You've got the base of your isosceles triangle. If you construct a perpendicular bisector of that base, it's going to go through your vertex or the center of your circle. And because it's a perpendicular bisector, we can make arguments that the 2 points on the circle have to be reflections of each other. I hope you guys can visualize that. And then because they are reflections, it's just like everything we've been talking about, we can then prove that the two triangles that were formed inside our isosceles triangle, therefore must be reflections of each other as well. And then we can just make the statement that the two base angles must be congruent because they're really just reflections of each other. Do you guys follow me on that?
Yeah, Rusty.
Okay. So that's all that I wanted to show you, and I want to show you how you do that with GeoGebra. But again, a big piece, if you guys are not geometry teachers, the big piece is, okay, here's the theorem, what are we working with, and what do I have to show? And I feel like as long as that logic makes sense, and you can't argue it, or explain well enough not to argue, because to me that's proof and not necessarily a proof column, even though that's something that we want to get to. It's definitely something we shouldn't start our students with. It's just having to explain the logical flow to the team. So now I think Pat's going to get you going on the next part, which is your table is going to have a theorem to prove or do the time probably talk about. But I recommend if you have GeoGebra open, please try to construct your theorem. If you have a parallelogram proof in GeoGebra, the fourth toolbox from the left is your construction toolbox. It's got like a red perpendicular line by default. You can just construct parallel lines with that tool. So just kind of give you a heads up if you have a parallelogram proof.
Okay, let's take a step back And we apologize for this confusion. And here's what we had originally wanted to be able to do with you. We had an opportunity to review those triangle congruents through the notion of transformations. And that was the part on the Nearpod. Now, what we were trying to do was to get you to see those in terms of transformations. What Rusty was doing with the base angles of an isosceles triangles was saying, you know what? There are some other theorems out there that also we can utilize the idea of transformations, especially as it relates to those triangle congruents, and provide the opportunity to visualize that through a picture. And through the GeoGebra, and what you kind of see over there is he was proving the base angles of an isosceles triangle are congruent. And he was using the notion of creating a perpendicular bisector, which then provided us the opportunity to say that those two triangles were congruent, and thus those two angles were congruent as well. So, our intent at this point was, there are, on each table, there is one or two different theorems that we'd like you to, there's three that we'd like you to share. So if you wouldn't mind, there's a little pack with some parallelogram theorems. And if you could just basically share those around the table. There's not enough for all, but you should have something that says maybe parallelogram theorem 4, 2, 1, etc. Okay? So did you find them? And share as much as possible.
They have all three.
They have what?
All of ours are number 3. Is that
Okay, that's okay. If there's a group of 5 or more, if there's more than 5, there should be 2.
2 groups?
I thought 2 different theorems.
Yeah, I thought
that table got 2 different theorems. So it's just sharing. Okay. Now, from a time perspective, here's what I'd like you to do. We're going to do a little exploration. You have one of these 5 theorems. What we'd like you to do in the next 15 minutes is we want you to explore that particular theorem and how you might be able to prove this theorem. Don't get caught up in that whole formal nature of proof. What Rusty did with the base angle, where he just took GeoGebra and said, how can I actually show this proof visually? And this is along the lines of what you did in the module with your triangle congruence theorem. And see if you can come up with a way to show your theorem using the notion of the transformations by showing it through GeoGebra. So explore for a little bit, even if you just explore on paper, what could you do in order to prove your theorem? Take a few minutes, and I'd actually like you to think individually about your theorem first, and then start the conversations at the table. Okay? All right, questions? All right.
Lots of ways to prove one thing.
You saw different ways of proving the theorems, which was interesting.
Yeah.
And was interesting, I had a good conversation with someone who decided to go to the Converse, which actually we were going to talk about in our end of the year workshop. Did you want to, Nathan, did you want to share what you were sharing with me?
Sure. Well, so my background is a Navy guy, and when you navigate with ships, and I put this in one of my posts, but when you navigate with ships, you have two different ways, like a radar. If you use radar to look at a point of land on your radar screen, you can tell you're 10 nautical miles from that piece of land. Then you transfer that to your navigational chart, your map, and you draw an arc that's 10 nautical miles long or length, and you get a nice arc, and that's a line of position. You know you're somewhere along that arc. You're somewhere 10 miles from that point of land. You combine that with another radar range or a visual bearing if you use a compass, and then that like a compass bearing becomes a straight line, and where those two intersect, that is your known position. And in navigation, you like to have three, but when you apply that to, say, like side, you pin down one side, then the other two sides are just arcs, and where they cross is very simple. That's where the other vertices is. So to me, it's very. I like to do the straight edge and compass instructions because it's just like navigation.
So it was an interesting extension as to what we were just doing, and I wanted him to share that. Well, these theorems are just the start of the theorems that students are going to need to be able to do. That bottom part is hard to say. As we go through what we had intended for you today, we do appreciate the choppy road journey that you went with us on today. But what we were attempting to do was to take you from what we had done in the module and to just go the next step of the visualization of those triangle congruence theorems. That PowerPoint that was on the Nearpod, you have access to. So going through that again may actually help you on your own, may actually help you make that visualization. We then wanted to then apply that whole notion to some additional theorems. And that was what you did, and we appreciate the opportunity that you all took and the sharing that you did with one another. For the end of the year workshop, we are going to continue that transformation conversation, but we're really going to look at some additional theorems and their converses. And that was, again, a conversation that we had already started with one here. We're going to look at the area formulas for special quadrilaterals. And in particular, when we're looking at the Montana Common Core Standards in Geometry, these proof theorems about triangles and proof theorems about parallelograms was what we were attempting to help you look at. So the parallelogram ones were the ones that we were doing today, and we're going to look at some more of the triangle theorems from there. Again, I appreciate your patience for what happened today. I think Rusty is still on the line. Rusty, any final words?
I turned him all the way down.
Oh, okay. Turned him all the way down.
Rusty.
Yeah. Yeah. There we go. Rusty?
We can hear you now.
You can hear me?
Yeah, now we can hear you. Any final thoughts?
My final thoughts? I just thank you everybody here for putting up the technology quizzes, but I'm sure there's amazing conversations there, but Pat, I think you're absolutely right on summing this up. A visualization is so key for our understanding, and that's really what we want you guys to get, I think.
And we hope between now and when we see you in June that you've had an opportunity, for those of you who teach geometry, to continue this exploring of GeoGebra with what you're doing in your geometry class. Well, we hope you have a good rest of the day, and I think Jenny's going to tell you what's coming next. And thank you.